Chicago has long been one of Donald Trump's favorite targets. At this point, it is frankly difficult to keep track of all of the ways he is trying to intimidate that city. I mean, just today, the Trump administration announced that it plans to claw back $2.1 billion in federal funding for Chicago's desperately needed infrastructure projects. And those cuts come as Trump continues to threaten to deploy National Guard troops onto the streets of Chicago. Federal agents are already on the ground there, openly carrying guns as they patrol on boats down the Chicago River and conduct barbaric raids, like the one on a Chicago apartment building this week. In the early morning hours on Tuesday, agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters and reportedly broke down people's doors, pulling men, women, and children, some of whom were naked, out of their apartments, separating families. Those families' belongings, everything from shoes to toys to food, were ransacked and thrown into piles in the building's hallway. A man who lives in the building next door told CNN, "I've been on military bases for a good portion of my life, and the action I saw, it was an invasion." DHS says it has made more than 900 arrests in the Chicago area over the past few weeks, and many of those detainees have been taken to this ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, where for the past few weeks, protesters have been vehemently demanding transparency, but have been met with tear gas and violent attacks by law enforcement. Democratic congressional candidate Kat Ogbozile has been taking part in those protests and was thrown to the ground by ICE agents herself. You can see it right on the video there. Earlier today, she spoke at a press conference outside of the Broadview facility and described what she witnessed.
This is a processing facility. It is only supposed to hold people for 12 hours at a time. But we have heard reports of people being held for days or weeks at a time, without beds or hot meals or access to hygienic facilities. It is likely that the conditions in the Broadview Processing Center are much worse than we already know, because ICE will not allow our elected officials to inspect the facility, which is our leaders' legal right. ICE masks their faces. ICE set up gates to keep us away from their crimes. ICE boards up their windows. Republicans have described Chicago as a war zone. They are obviously wrong. But Broadview is a war zone. It's a war zone with the government waging war on peaceful protesters.
Joining me now from Chicago is Democratic congressional candidate who you just saw there in that video, Kat Ogbozile. Kat, it's so great to see you. And that was such a powerful set of remarks you gave earlier today. And you've been tireless in advocating for more transparency there. I just wanted to ask you, I mean, you've been on the ground, again, protesting at this facility. Can you just describe how the situation there has escalated over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me on to talk about this, Jen. This facility is where anyone that is abducted in the Chicago area probably ends up. This is where they end up. And as I described earlier, they're held in inhumane conditions. A few weeks ago, I believe about 6 weeks ago now, a couple of protesters were arrested at a vigil for peacefully blocking a van. And week after week, more and more people have showed up. I showed up the next week, and we have been out there every Friday morning to bear witness to deportations happening and to demand transparency, accountability, and safety from our leaders in regards to this ICE facility. Every single week, we have seen one-sided escalation from ICE. We come with songs and chants and signs. They come with tear gas and pepper bullets and flashbangs. They have started abducting protesters into the facility. They have started arresting press for doing their job. I have watched them target press multiple times. They tell families that are trying to deliver medication to their loved ones to leave before shooting them with pepper balls. They have tried to drive vehicles through protesters multiple times. This is a war zone, except it's a one-sided war. It is ICE agents in masks. We don't know who they are. In the 5-6 weeks I've been there now, I have seen 2 badge numbers the entire time. We don't know who these men are. We don't know what they're allowed to do. We don't even know what agency many of them work for. And they are just allowed to brutalize anyone that they want. That video that you showed, that was actually the 3rd time an ICE agent has picked me up and thrown me on the ground. And the worst part is that all the things I just described don't compare to what is actually happening in that facility. That is the reason we're out there protesting. And that is what we are trying to get: transparency and accountability.
It's really powerful hearing from you describe this because I think a lot of people don't know all of the things that are happening. Given everything you just said, I want to play for you something DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said. I mean, she was at the Broadview facility today. Let's play that. We'll talk about it.
There's going to be consequences for how these guys act and for what they do and how they impede our vehicles when they lay hands on our officers, but even prevent them from going out and doing their duties. And we're going to not just show them that we're here to stay, but that we're going to expand our footprint and make sure that the citizens of Chicago are put first and that their safety is put first.
That was speaking with podcaster Benny Johnson, by the way, but that is so out of touch, disconnected, cruel, lots of words. But what is your response to that? You're living with this. You see it.
Yeah, I think Kristi Noem should have consequences. I think she should be tried at The Hague. What we are seeing from her operation are crimes against humanity. And if the response from ICE to people exercising their First Amendment right is to drive vehicles through them, is to shoot them, is to put a stationary gun on top of a roof, as we saw today, they shouldn't be allowed to operate. If that is what their operations entail, they should not be an agency in the United States. What I really want to stress to people is that none of this is normal. It is not normal to have masked men rappel down from helicopters into apartment buildings to arrest families in the middle of the night. That is not normal. It is not normal to have agents with no identification of where they work, who they are, what they are allowed to do. That is not normal. At least in the United States, it's not normal. Today, we were corralled into a free speech zone. And I'm not a big fan of that term because it implies there are areas in the US that are non-free speech zones, mainly everywhere else. It is ICE's responsibility to respect and uphold our rights. It is not on us to accommodate them. And it is not on us to accommodate Kristi Noem's racist, fascist agenda.
Kat Ogbugazale, never hold back. I really appreciate you taking the time tonight and speaking out so forcefully about such an important issue. Thank you so much for being with us.